WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Live from the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida. Top stories, breaking news, interactive coverage in the palm of your hand. This is WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Here's JB Buno.
Months ahead of a possible trial window. Crews arriving this morning to King Road in Moscow, Idaho, to demolish the home where 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death just last year. The decision, highly controversial. The university says it's calling for healing, while critics say the university is bulldozing a murder scene before justice is served. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Stream Center. I'm JB Buno. We have live feeds coming in, interactive coverage this morning from Moscow, Idaho, starting here on WFLA Now. Welcome into the Stream Center. If it's your first time here with us on stream, the whole point of the Stream Center is to provide you, of course, with high-quality feeds, streams from across the country, and then, of course, to engage with you, interact with you, and we can, of course, do so using hashtag HeyJB. I've got YouTube Live up. Hello to our YouTube Live audience, wherever you're watching from. Let me first just start off by saying happy holidays. No matter where you're watching from in the world, all the very best to you and your families. And we'll be talking a lot about family, of course, the families of Xana Kernodle, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Ethan Chapin, once again going through a holiday break where they are reliving a lot of this because, once again, this story is in the news because of a scheduled demolition expected to take place within the next half hour, or at least begin in the next half hour, of the King Road residence, where in November of last year at the University of Idaho, the 4 young students were stabbed to death in the middle of the night, of course, setting off a massive pursuit for justice, culminating with the arrest of Brian Koberger, a nearby grad student who was arrested on really the other side of the country at his home in Pennsylvania. And since then, of course, a lot of pre-trial motions that set us up for a potential trial that could begin this summer. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, why there could be a trial this summer, why, of course, there could be delays. We're going to get into all of that over the course of the stream. We have a lot to talk about because we haven't been on stream with this story in particular in a few months. So we're going to kind of recap some of the things that you might have missed if you're, again, joining us and getting reacclimated to this story. Let's talk about what you're here for. You're here, of course, to see the demolition of the home. And the home is being demolished. Again, this is the home where the students were brutally murdered, stabbed to death in the middle of the night, November 13th of 2022. And the demolition is occurring because the university president says, university leadership says, that they need to heal, that the home itself, in essence, casts a shadow over the university. And as the university is trying to move forward, the house there is without putting words into the university's or the president's mouth, in essence, what they're saying is that the structure itself is a reminder of what took place in November of 2022. Now, critics, including the family of Kaylee Gonzalez, very outspoken, is the Gonzalez family. What they are saying is that this is outrageous to the concept of demolishing, bulldozing the murder scene just after they finally got this trial window for summer 2024, really 6 months before a potential trial. You're going to bulldoze the home where the murders took place. That, to many online, especially Twitter, and we'll get into the social media response here momentarily, but the response has been pretty one-sided. Not as one-sided as you might think, but pretty one-sided in favor of leaving the structure up. Of course, you're here for the feeds. The reason why we don't have live feeds yet is very simple. It's because it's cold out there in Idaho. And the crews, there's a lot of media, as we understand it. I've been assured of 4 separate feeds coming into the stream center from King Road in Moscow, Idaho. And the reason that we don't have any of the 4 potential feeds yet from the camera crews that are going to be stationed outside where the demolition is set to begin at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central, of course, that's 7 o'clock Pacific time. The reason is because it's just so cold out there. It's December in Idaho. So I believe the temperature is in the mid-30s, somewhere around 34, 35 degrees. And reporters and photographers, they're going to be out there for probably hours doing live reports from King Road. And they're just trying to stay as warm as possible as we get to about 23 minutes to go here before the actual scheduled demolition is set to begin. So hello to our audience. The reason that we are live a little bit early is, of course, to kind of set the stage. But the moment that I'm here in the stream center, the moment that I see a feed pop up, I just hit the touchscreen here. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 feeds routed in. And so the moment that we get one of the first camera crew to power on, in essence, from the street, we'll of course go to that feed and show you what it looks like, whether or not there's a massive presence there. There's a lot of questions here, you guys. Is there a chance that there's a last-minute court order that puts this off? The Gonzalez family, through their attorneys, have been trying to state their case, trying to get prosecutors on board, but really the prosecutors with this case, the defense, Brian Koberger, his representation, the university, they're all really singing the same tune here. And that tune is demolish the house. Even though most of what we're seeing on social media, your response has been, why are you demolishing a murder scene 6 months before a trial is going to begin? Kaylee Gonzalez's dad has been doing multiple media appearances, and they put out a statement that I'm going to read here soon and talk a little bit about why they believe that it is heinously premature to move forward with the demolition. And then we'll also talk a little bit about why the university. In fact, why don't we discuss the university's response first and why this is moving forward. And this is a quote here from President Scott Green, University of Idaho, and he says that the house is a grim reminder of the heinous act that took place there. While we appreciate the emotional connection some family members of the victims may have to this house, it is time for its removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue, end quote. Scott Green, President, University of Idaho. So the Gonzalez family, frustrated. Folks who have been following this case, frustrated. Worth noting that there's no guarantee that we have a trial that actually begins in this upcoming summer. But one of the reasons why we actually have the demolition now, and why we have a potential trial for this slated for this summer, not sooner, is because it's going to be happening in Latah County. It's going to be happening really right there where, of course, the University of Idaho community resides. And this is the holiday break. And, of course, so that undoubtedly plays a part in this. Less traffic, less people actually being there, people being really in large part at home with their families. But then also as well, the summer trial window, they're trying to obviously get the trial in while campus is much, much slower and not as filled with students as it would be if you did it in March, April, or even May. So we're awaiting those live feeds. But in the meantime, what I would like to do is spotlight some of your comments using hashtag HeyJB. If you use how this works, if you use hashtag HeyJB with your social media comment, I can animate your comments on screen, like Jeep Girl. who says hashtag KJB, is the defense pro demolishing the house? The defense has raised no objection of any kind to demolishing the house. If you're Brian Kohberger, it'd be hard to imagine being Brian Kohberger and having objection to demolishing the house. There's so many different ways to look at this, but if we're just talking about the defense and you're talking about a legal strategy, the house not being there, remember, the state, it has the burden of proving its case, proving that Brian Kohberger is guilty of the crimes that he is accused of, murdering, first-degree murder of the 4 students. And, of course, he is facing the death penalty. His life is quite literally on the line here. So the state has the burden of proving its case. And because that's how our legal system works, you would imagine that right there, Brian Kohberger, from one of the hearings earlier this year, he's not going to raise any objection. His team is not going to raise much of an objection to demolishing the house. It's the demolition of where really all the evidence has been since November of last year. Now, to the evidence, of course, there have been just a plethora of reports about how the FBI has taken a 3D scan of the home to present that in court. All the evidence has been gathered, personal belongings taken from the home, that anything that could come up at trial, they can recreate digitally or show or even bring in, if they need to, as exhibits, they can bring in evidence to showcase it for the jury. Various items, such as the sheath, the knife that, of course, that was used was never recovered as far as the murders of Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. But the sheath with a DNA sample that matched to Kohberger, prosecutors say, or authorities say, was found at the murder scene. So the sheath can be presented in court, but you can't. This is going to, for those of you who follow trials, of course, the Alex Murdaugh trial and how the jury went to the scene of the crime. Sending the jury. Now, would you send the jury to the home here in Idaho? There's been conflicting analysis about that, but yeah. Stand by, folks. I'm hearing that we might actually have a feed coming in. Stand by, back in 30 or so seconds. I'm going to mute my mic for a second. I think we have our first feed. Being told that the feed is going to be coming in, I believe, from News Nation. We got some other media partners that are going to be sharing the feed with us, and that will begin here just in a second as they calibrate that into the stream center, so I can grab it. I want to see some other comments. Let's see what people are saying. Again, if you use hashtag AJB, I can spotlight your comment. Let's see here. Brandon says hashtag AJB. I think this makes the case better for the defense. The jury should have a say before this happens. Well, the jury's role in this is just to determine, based on the charges presented by the prosecutors, as to whether or not jury selection is far from even getting underway. So I understand what you're saying, that the jury should have a say before this happens, but really it's not really within the jury's scope to determine if a home should be demolished or not. If there was contention between prosecutors and the defense, that's one thing. But the prosecutors in this case are not standing in the way of this actually. What's that? Oh, okay. I see. All right, our first feed is in. Stand by here, folks. Let's bring this up.
From the Stream Center, breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
Months ahead of a possible trial window, a murder scene bulldozed. The University of Idaho proceeding to demolish the home where 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death last year, a highly controversial decision. Let's take you out there live to King Road in Moscow, Idaho, where the sun has not yet come up yet, but the demolition, if my watch is correct, beginning more than 15 minutes early. Here you see one of the crew members standing over the rubble where the demolition is currently underway. This is the home, for those of you just joining us on Facebook Live or perhaps elsewhere on social media or on WFLA.com, this is the home where in November of 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death in the middle of the night. Afterwards, after a couple of months, the investigation led them to suspect Brian Koberger, who is currently awaiting trial for the stabbing deaths of University of Idaho students Susanna Kernodle, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Ethan Chapin. But 6 months before the possible trial window opens up, prosecutors, the defense, the university, in agreement that the King Road residence where the murders took place can be demolished, and that is what is happening on schedule here on King Road in Moscow. A decision that is just, without putting too many labels on it, is controversial. People asking already in our comment section, will this decision be regretted in the future? Now, prosecutors say they have all the evidence they need, in essence. They're not standing in the way of this being bulldozed simply because they feel that they have what they need to make their case should a trial actually occur in, let's say, I don't know, May, June, July, August. But the response online from people who have followed this case, asking why now? Why not leave it up for one more semester? Allow for the trial to begin as scheduled and it be used as a tool, potentially, if needed, for the jury to reach their conclusion as to whether or not Brian Koberger is guilty of first-degree murder. I'm going to ask my stream chat because look, it's not that big of a deal, but I think the demolition began early, right? The demolition was slated, I had it as 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central. And then, of course, Pacific time, Moscow, Idaho. So, yeah, and then some others in the chat here wondering, is there anyone protesting? I have another feed we're going to be bringing up here. Stand by. As promised, we have now another picture to show you. And I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between these feeds. I'm curious to know exactly what the scene looks like other than the house itself, whether or not there are onlookers, people on the block who came outside. It's cold. It's 34, 35 or so degrees in Moscow, Idaho this morning. But did anybody show up with signs? Are there any demonstrations taking place? It should also be stated as well that the university said that the demolition should take several days. And I remember thinking to myself, I have a hard time believing that a relatively small structure is going to take that long to demolish. It's not even 10 o'clock Eastern yet, and the home is already half demolished. They'll have to, of course, remove a lot of the debris, what's left behind. And of course, that's a process that will take several days. But I mean, in large part, the house is destroyed. And now, of course, it'll be very interesting to see the response online, seeing this with, again, a potential trial perhaps starting in as early as 5-6 months.
Like two.
You might hear some reporter chatter here. Let's go to the other feed. Listen in here. I'd like to take a moment to read one of the more recent statements that came from the Gonzalez and Kernodle families. They issued a joint statement in objection to what you are witnessing right here, the demolition of the King Road residence. And I'm going to read it, and it lays out some points as to why, for what they describe as basic evidentiary purposes, why the demolition should not have been allowed to proceed. And it reads as follows. The Gonzalez family has reached out to the Latah County Prosecutor's Office and the University of Idaho to stop this madness. When the victims can't speak, you have to speak for them when you feel someone is hurting the case. Let's just answer the question on why the King Road house should stand for basic evidentiary purposes. What were the vantage points of the roommates? What could they hear from where they were in the house? What could they see? How far was one of the surviving roommates when she saw Brian Koberger, and why didn't he see her? Could the surviving roommates hear a dog barking from the third floor? Screams? Can you hear those same sounds from the bottom apartment? Outside the house, if evidence is presented about Brian Koberger leaving or watching the house, what windows could he see in from where he was parked? Was he able to view the inside of the house? And what was going on from outside, sitting in a car, walking by? How long did it take for him to walk to his car? What points of entry could he have gotten into the house? Is there audio evidence? What can you hear standing outside the house? What can you hear inside the house? What was Xana's path in the house to pick up the DoorDash? Did she have to walk past different rooms? Could she have walked past Brian Koberger? Where could he have been hiding? All the entry and exit points in the home. How could you get in and out without anyone seeing you? Were the decks potential access points, since the decks and landscape features are very close to each other? Any biological evidence? Where was it located in the house? Any proximity to the victims? Was there any trail outside of biological evidence and its proximity to the house? If the house itself was a target, why was the house a target? Why are all the access/exit points to the property? I'm not sure if I'm reading that one correctly. The driveway configuration for a vehicle to exit/enter/turn around. What are the vantage points of other camera evidence pointed toward the house? Distance, view, lighting, etc. And then they go on to ask for a trial date being scheduled. If there was any last-minute attempt for a court order to stop this from moving forward, it failed. We don't know what those efforts look like and how far along they got and whether they were entertained or not, but they did not get far enough to prevent this from happening. Now, to respond to the Gonzalez and Kernodle families, as far as some of these questions, prosecutors have stated that they have what they need. And also, too, that a lot of the questions that they're raising can be answered in the form of digital recreation, recreating the crime scene digitally for a jury. But really, this is going to be fascinating because how does a digitally recreated crime scene, how would it stand up against, we'll never really know the answer to the question, but how does a digitally recreated crime scene stand up to physically being there? We know that in the Murdaugh case, that the jurors were able to go and stand outside, stand around the dog kennels where the, of course, murders had taken place. And you will never truly understand, or maybe we will in time as more jurors come forward, but what kind of impact that had, the emotional depth that comes with visiting a crime scene. Also, too, though, it has to be stated, we don't know if whether or not there would have been that much leeway for a jury to actually go to the residence. And also, too, the time that would have elapsed as well. I'm trying to be fair here. I'm trying to be objective. I've spent weeks thinking about this myself, trying to understand all sides here. Understand this, from a prosecutor standpoint, from a defense attorney standpoint, the university standpoint. Again, this being allowed to proceed because the university wants to heal. But the fact of the matter is that this is going to be in the news repeatedly between now and trial. And it's going to, of course, hit a new, peak when actually trial gets underway. So trying to understand it from all angles here. But back to the point, will a digitally recreated crime scene pack the same punch and have the same impact for a jury than the physical crime scene itself, should they have been allowed to have gone there? And also, too, how preserved would the crime scene have been? There you can see the first dump truck. Here, let's go here live. That's the first dump truck leaving with sections of the home. One thing I wasn't able to see, we're about to bring up your hashtag HJB comments. You can start punching those in now. We're going to start to animate those on screen. But sorry, just reading some text messages here. I'm going to be reading your hashtag HJB comments, but yeah, just looking at a couple items here, folks. Hold on, stand by. We have a guest who's going to be joining us in the stream center momentarily. Stand by. coming back in here, checking out some of the comments. I wonder if people feel the same way as Brooke. Brooke says, #KJB, this is so hard to watch. And no matter who you are, whatever side you represent, I'm sure that you're feeling an emotion watching this. We have seen live reports outside of the King Road residence. We have seen digital recreations of what it was like in the house. So many of us in reading through the arrest affidavit when we did that on stream, trying to gain an idea, like a mental sort of projection of what it was like in the home. On the third floor, down to the second floor, down to the first floor with this hooded or figure in the darkness, if you will, making an exit out of the house, being seen by one of the surviving roommates. Trying to put yourself in that home, and now that watching that home be demolished. Yeah, I'm sure to Brooke's point, I'm sure for many it's difficult to watch. What else are we seeing here in the comment section? Again, I'm literally going to just isolate for #KJB for a moment because it makes things a little bit easier for me to see. Allie says, #KJB, everything about this feels wrong. We'll get to our poll results here in a moment. My Instagram poll last night, I thought the results were somewhat surprising, but we can talk more about that in a little bit. But I ran an Instagram poll last night to try to get an idea as to where everyone's frame of mind was at heading into today. That poll is still up on my Instagram. I don't have access to the News Nation live feed, but ICU says that they're reporting on News Nation that debris will now be guarded because of souvenir hunters, etc. L says #KJB, why/how did the prosecution agree to this? I'm not entirely sure, and I'll have to check my notes, if they agreed to it. There's a difference between agreeing to something and then not standing in the way of something. They might not have objected to the university's decision and chose not to act in opposition. But no, really, prosecutors did not put up a fight in preventing this. So, and that, of course, has raised a lot of questions, but speaks to how confident they must be in what they do have evidence-wise. American Dreamer, #KJB, will they go through the rubble? It's a very interesting question. Will someone sift through the remnants of the home to make sure that there isn't something that was missed? Even if they did find something of value, it would be so... I would imagine, I'm not an expert, I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine it would be so incredibly easy to get it tossed out because you have no true proof of where it was, how long it was there. There's so... I don't know. What I do know is that we have a friend of the program joining. Let's welcome in from... I don't even know where he is. On vacation, man. Peter Tragos, the lawyer is joining us. It wouldn't be right to be talking about this case and not be bringing in Peter. Peter and I have streamed a lot on this particular story. Peter, you on vacation? Where are you, my friend?
I'm in North Carolina, man, and it's freezing here.
Oh my goodness.
It's freezing.
Well, welcome. Hope you and your family are great. Happy holidays to you and the Tragos clan. Talk to me. You're looking at this. We've been talking about King Road for really more than a year now. You see this. What's your gut initial reaction, even before you're interpreting this as a lawyer? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, to me, there's just so many questions about why it's necessary at this point, this time. They talk about the economics. They talk about, how much it costs to keep the house up and those types of things. It's almost nothing. If you look at a budget and you look at everything they're paying for, to me, it really has more to do with probably PR, and they want people to not think about this when they think about the University of Idaho, and they want to try to put this in the past. And I can understand that. But while the case is still active, the world is still watching. Nobody's going to put this in their rearview mirror until the trial's over, and maybe not even then. As we know, there are post-trial things that happen that keep people's eyes and attention on it. And I just think there are so many more reasons to leave it up, just in case, better safe than sorry type of story, than to remove it at this point.
We're introducing hashtag lawyer you know into the conversation. Of course, Peter is the lawyer you know. You can follow him on his respective social media platforms, including right here on YouTube. Peter, we're going to get to those hashtag lawyer you know questions, because I'm sure a lot of the questions that our live chat has right now are similar to the questions that I have. But I want to start with this one, because I always try to approach situations like this lowest common denominator. And I start with this asking one fundamental question. Is there any financial reason? Is there any money reason as to why they would be proceeding with this? Or is it purely in large part they just want to move on?
Yeah, I mean, the financial reason would just be to save the money to keep the house up, to take care of the house, to... Can you hear me still?
Oh, yeah, I got you. But I guess,
Okay.
I guess I'm also wondering... I guess I'm also... Yeah, I got you. I got you on the AirPods.
Okay.
I guess I'm wondering, are they afraid that the house is scaring off prospective students? I mean, I'm thinking about all of the various financial reasons as to why they would be so keen on taking this risk. It is a risk to demolish this house, and why they would want to move forward with it so badly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the PR part of it, right? There's all financial ripple effects that come from people associating this case with the University of Idaho, right? It's students, it's donors, it's people coming to football games, basketball games, parents' weekend, whatever it may be. The little bit of tourism they probably get from the university being there is affected by this. And I think they think this is a step in the direction of putting this behind them, which, again, we can understand from the victim's point of view how hurtful this can be, how difficult this can be. For some of the victims, we can understand some of the victims, don't really care what happens because they realize it's not going to change what's going on. Other victims are probably in support, at least partially, because they also want to put it behind them. But at the end of the day, I think everybody wants justice in the case. And if this could help even 1% in getting that justice, whichever way it turns at trial, to me, I don't understand the reason why you would get rid of the house at this point.
To read the statement from this gentleman here, I'm just going to bring down some audio a little bit. But on the left is Idaho President Scott Green, and his statement read as follows. That the house is a grim reminder of the heinous act that took place there. While we appreciate the emotional connection some family members of the victims may have to this house, it is time for its removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue. This, of course, coming from the University of Idaho, and this is Scott Green from the University of Idaho website. So that, again, speaking to why they want to, that's it in their words. What we're going to do now is spotlight your hashtag lawyer you know questions. We'll come back to hashtag HJB, but while we have X amount of minutes with Peter while he's on vacation, providing us with legal analysis, we're going to try to just exclusively focus on questions and comments with hashtag lawyer you know. And Peter, before I take Nicole's question here on the center of our screen, let's just start with this question. You're on vacation. How many minutes do you have for our Q&A here coming up?
I'm good till about 10:30, so I got a little more than 15 minutes.
All right, so let's do it. About a 15-minute Q&A, and then we'll send Peter on his way to have fun with the fam. All right, Nicole says, hashtags for us both. Again, use one of these hashtags in the YouTube Live or Facebook Live comment section if you want your comment featured on screen as so. What was the process like to get this approved? Who had the final say? What did that process look like? We've been talking, Peter, to kind of preface this, we've been talking about how there really was little objection other than the Gonzalez family, the Carnodal family. There wasn't much of an objection outside of those two families in demolishing this house. So people wanted to know how this came to be.
So when you own the house, you can demolish the house as long as there's not a court order or somebody stopping you from demolishing your property. If it becomes a crime scene, there are some hoops you have to jump through. But at the end of the day, once everybody came, they did their digital reconstruction, they did their testing, they did their measuring, they gathered all the evidence. Law enforcement was done with it. Once the house was released from law enforcement, they theoretically could demolish the house. They waited, they talked to the prosecutor, they waited to hear from the defense. I don't know if they directly spoke to them or if they just waited to see if they were going to file anything in court to try to block this, any protective order, any injunction. None of that was filed. It seems like neither party was trying to keep this house up or really putting up too much of a fight to stop the demolishing of this house. Therefore, the University of Idaho owns this house and it's their property and they can do what they want with it. So there doesn't really have to be an approval process. They didn't have to seek approval from the court to demolish the house. But I do think they were respectful and waited to hear from the parties before making the ultimate decision.
And the decision has culminated with the demolition that you're watching here live in the center of your screen. Viola wants to know, hashtags for us both. Again, the FBI has stated, you guys, that they have digitally recreated a 3D blueprint of the house that can be used potentially at trial. So Viola asks, would the 3D scan actually be used for jurors to do a VR walkthrough? Now this is an interesting question. This is actually a fascinating question because VR is the idea that they would be able to put on virtual reality headsets to be in the home and see the digitally recreated murder scene. Now, Peter, have you ever heard of VR headsets being used by a jury? That would be obviously new territory, no?
So I haven't been a part of a trial or seen a trial where VR headsets were actually used. I think that'd be interesting to use that new technology. I would think it would probably look more like a virtual accident reconstruction where maybe they have a body dressed in black with a mask on, walking through the steps that they either have evidence that he walked through or that witness testimony can say, I saw him coming down the stairs, entering here, exiting there. We have a footprint here in the carpet, recreating the scene, virtually walking them through the scene, showing them each bedroom, showing them the stairs, showing them how they believed it happened. Now, are they going to be able to get all that in? There will be challenges on what's admissible, what's not, what should be excluded, what should not, based on it being a recreation. And are they making any inferences? Are they making any jumps in their recreation? There's a lot of fights in every case, civil or criminal, when there is some kind of accident reconstruction that is virtual.
I can almost vision it, Viola. You can almost envision them rolling a big screen TV right in front of the jurors and right in front of the respective parties in the courthouse to show them a 3D recreation. But the idea of them using virtual reality, which is the idea of, again, putting on a headset or being immersed in that recreation.
It's also expensive.
I would imagine crazy expensive, right, Peter, to be able to go that far to take jurors into the house virtually. Let's look at some other comments that are just coming in this moment. And
while you look.
Yes.
While you look. But
yes.
Go ahead.
No.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the other issue with the virtual measurements and them recreating this virtually is people get annoyed at criminal defense attorneys, but good criminal defense attorneys pick things apart. And you have the FBI, you have local law enforcement, whoever it is that writes these reports. It's part of their job. They're experts. They do this for 20 years. They still make mistakes. And defense attorneys will have certain things completely thrown out or the credibility looking lackluster based on those mistakes. So let's say the defense has an expert that measured it one way, and you're 2 inches off on the state's expert, and they have this virtual recreation of the house that they're saying, oh, that window is actually 2 inches higher than you have it here. So wouldn't that make it a lot harder to climb through that window? Or you have the sliding glass door 6 inches to the left. If he would have done that, there would be a footprint here. And now it's all this virtual measurement and equations being used and math to recreate this virtually, and poking holes is going to be part of this. And showing how it's not reliable or not credible to use it the way the state wants to use it, it's probably going to be something the defense does in this case, just like they're going to pick apart police reports, just like they're going to pick apart DNA evidence, how it was collected, how it was tested. All of that is going to happen now with the virtual recreation of this crime scene.
The source material is quite literally being wiped away as we speak, is basically what you're saying. That if they need to correct something, it's pretty much now. They would never truly know because you can't go to a house that has been completely demolished. To Allie's question, hashtags for us both, is it true that Brian Kohberger could go to the house if the jurors went? This is interesting. So had the demolition not occurred and the jury was able to go, similar to Murdaugh, would Brian Kohberger have accompanied them?
In most scenarios, they would be able to if they could create a secure and safe enough way for this to happen. I believe in Daryl Brooks, he was able to go down before the jury with law enforcement to see his car that they looked at as the jury view, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't believe Murdaugh went to Moselle. His lawyers did. So it really depends on if the judge thinks there was a safe and secure enough way to transport him to view what the jury is viewing, again, as part of his rights as a criminal defendant, to see what the evidence is against him. But at the very least, his lawyers would be there.
You know, one of the points that was brought up by the Gonzalez and Kernodle families in their statement was audio. You know, we're so caught up in visually what it was like in there, but hearing screams and what was heard from the first floor or from the third floor down to the first floor. Callie Cat wants to know, can they recreate what Dee was able to hear, again, referencing a surviving roommate?
So they wouldn't have somebody stand across the street and scream so that they could hear what it sounds like. But similar to Moselle, if you do a jury view and you go inside, and if it's dead quiet and you can't hear anything inside, you can probably think as a juror, if I'm standing inside another house, it's probably similar to this. With Moselle, they could see all these trees. Could we have seen what was happening? Could we have heard it? If we're back by the house, how far away is it from the kennels? Could we have heard what was happening at the kennels while we were at the house? So you can kind of see, feel, hear, use your five senses when you visit the crime scene. Now, jury views do not happen in every case. It's not like this was guaranteed to happen. One side or the other could have objected to it still. Just the possibility of it, to me, would have been enough to leave it up for now. If you think about Parkland and the Nicholas Cruz shooting case here in Florida, and the status that they left that school up over all those years, to me, is a much bigger undertaking than this one house.
Michelle says the word that she uses is suspicious that the prosecution agreed to this. And again, I have to check my notes, just to, journalist at heart here, making sure that my crossing my T's, dotting my I's, but whether or not the prosecutors actually agreed to this or whether or not they just didn't stand in the way, objecting to this. But bottom line is the prosecutors didn't put up much of a fight, Peter, in preventing the demolition from taking place. Suspicious is the word that Michelle uses. If you're a prosecutor in this case, don't you want the source material? Don't you want the house to remain standing for as long as possible? What do you think?
So again, I don't know what the prosecutors know, right? And that's always a difficult part when we're commenting on these cases. The lawyers and the parties know so much more than we on the outside can know, especially with this case, all the things that have happened under seal and that have been confidential. I would think there are a couple reasons, probably three main reasons the prosecutors could have not objected to this. Number one, they didn't think they needed it. They weren't going to ask for a jury view. They did all the testing. They think the recreation is good enough, and they feel confident enough to go forward. Number two, they're overly confident. They feel like they have so much evidence, there's no way any reasonable juror would ever not convict Brian Kohberger. So they said, what the heck, University of Idaho, do whatever you want. We don't need it. Or number three, they thought potentially a jury view could be bad for them. And maybe they think there's some argument the defense could make or some lack of evidence type of deal that if the jury went to the house, they'd be like, this was impossible for one man to do this in however many minutes. And maybe they thought it was actually not a great view for them evidentiary-wise. And that's why they felt like they may be better off with the house demolished. I don't know. Those are just the three kind of arenas I could see the prosecutors thinking in when not putting up a fight to demolish this house. Like you said, I'm not so sure they agreed to it or wanted it to happen.
Jay Ray, this comment, Peter, we could always go down the rabbit hole of what ifs, but given how topical this is, I want to read this comment, #HJB from Jay Ray. What if somehow the murder weapon was inside of the house, like in an air conditioning duct work or something like that? It has to be stated, the actual knife used in the murders of Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee has never been recovered, according to prosecutors and authorities, rather. Even though they, of course, combed through this house, combed through the Kohberger home in Pennsylvania, while the sheath was recovered, in addition to a DNA sample on the button of that sheath, the knife itself has never been recovered. But Jay Ray is asking, if the murder weapon was found in the rubble here, Peter, then what?
Well, you're saying if it was actually found. I mean, obviously they'd have to do testing. They'd have to look at it. The problem with it would be, a major problem would be, where was it, right? I mean, you see these huge pieces of machinery just ripping stuff apart. he drops it in the back of the truck and somebody sees a knife fall out. Where was it? Was it on the first floor, the second floor? Which room was it in? Which air duct was it in? Was it in the toilet? Where was it hidden? We have no idea. Is there going to be DNA testing? Is there going to be any of these construction workers or demolition people or anybody before with their DNA on it? How do you actually keep it clean? There are all sorts of issues. Now, the argument on the other side could be, well, we probably never would have found it if they didn't demolish the house. So maybe it was a good thing they demolished the house if they did find the weapon. To me, one of the other big questions is, if there's a not guilty verdict, it's over. And I think it's almost impossible to prosecute anybody else than Bryan Kohberger at this point, because they're not going to have the opportunity to do this testing, look at the house, see if they want to block it, and demand a jury view on their side. So this is an all or nothing attempt, which most are. Once you prosecute and arrest and try somebody for a crime like this, it's very difficult to then switch gears to somebody else, because you've already made statements and gotten witness statements and put up enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that you believe it's this person. So any defense would be able to use that person as another suspect as besides of their client. But just an interesting thought process about the risks when demolishing the house like this.
Right. Or what it could potentially uncover. Now, look, federal authorities have been in the house. Prosecutors have been in the house. Obviously, authorities in Latah County, Moscow, Idaho have been in the house. This house has been micro-analyzed to get every little shred of evidence possible. It would be cataclysmic to think about the potential ramifications if the murder weapon was in the house all along. That is a crazy concept, but it just goes, even if it's not the murder weapon, any piece of tangible evidence that was salvaged from this, or whether or not we don't know where this rubble is being taken, Peter. We don't know if authorities are going to be going through it at all and checking to see if they missed something, or if this is just going to a landfill somewhere. Perhaps that's being reported on some other networks. I'll be able to check a little bit later on. But we have 5 more minutes with Peter before he's got to go and resume his vacation. So this is a last call for your comments and questions. We'll try to get a few more into the queue here, you guys. But let me ask Peter this one. On the way in this morning, woke up around 5 a.m. or so, and on the way in to the Stream Center this morning, I was listening to Peter's most recent video when he was talking about how this trial is potentially scheduled for this summer. And Peter, at the end, spoiler alert, sorry, Peter, but I'm going to spoil this for the end of
Spoil away.
Watch Peter's video. He articulates this point, but as Peter gets to the final points of his video, he expresses some doubt as to whether or not this will actually happen in 2024. Peter, your line of thinking is that if you're Bryan Kohberger, you want to delay this as much as possible to establish as much of a defense as you can and build your own defense to be as prepared for whatever prosecutors throw your way. You were talking about even summer of 2025 being a potential for this trial. Now, where we stand today, odds, you know me with numbers, right? You and I have hung out enough to know. Odds that the trial actually begins summer 2024.
Because the state asked for it, it's got to be more than, a 1 to 10% chance. I'd put it somewhere in the 20% chance. I think it's more likely than not that the trial is not going to happen in the summer of 2024, especially with some of the things happening under seal, the interlocutory appeal that Kohberger's trying to file and move certain things up based on what happened to the grand jury. I think I'm actually doing a video later today with my dad, who's also here on vacation with me, to talk about that process, how that works, what delays that could cause. So I think that at this point, Kohberger knows the state is more than ready, 100% ready. And I think the demolition of this house shows how far through the process they are, and that there's a truck driving by. So it shows how far into the process they are, and I think the state's ready, and nobody's going to be surprised at that. So I think Bryan Kohberger and his team want to do everything they can to make sure they're as ready as possible, and if they're not, they're going to delay it until they feel as confident as they can be that they've unturned every stone, dotted all their I's, crossed all their T's. There's no reason to rush it at this point. So I think they're going to take their time, and I think the court should and would grant continuances at this point if Kohberger asks for them for legitimate reasons.
Because we only have a minute or two left, one more question from our interactive audience. I think it's Remley or Rem. #KJB. They've said the house has changed inside, so it wasn't really going to be useful. What exactly does that mean? This is the point that we were talking about before you hopped on stream, Peter. The idea that so much time has elapsed. How preserved was the integrity of the crime scene itself? How preserved was it? And how useful would it have been should a trial had actually occurred, if it were to occur this summer?
Yeah, and I think this could mean multiple things. Yes, time passing could affect certain things, but I think more importantly with this house, a lot of testing was done. And again, what's so great about experience and watching other cases, and I know a lot of your viewers have, we think about Murdoch, and we think about that shirt with the blood spatter evidence. They tested it until it was rendered completely useless. It was a different color. They had cut pieces off of it. It looked nothing like the shirt from the videos that he was wearing that day. So that could have happened also with the furniture, with the flooring, with the carpet, with the windows, whatever it may be. It could be substantially different on the night of the crime, but also a lot of it could have been tested, destructively tested, to where it was different colors depending on what they had to spray on it, if they had to cut pieces of the carpet out. So walking through the house, it probably looked a lot different than it did the day the murders were actually committed. So yeah, there are multiple reasons that it is very different now than what it was back then, but spatially, and like you said, can you hear things? What can you see? How long does it take to walk up the stairs if you walk through that back sliding glass door? I think there was still some potential evidentiary value to leaving the house up.
Heard it here from Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know. Peter, the final question I'm going to ask you is, what does a Tragos Christmas vacation look like? You have stepped away from a little bit of vacation time in North Carolina to spend some time with us on stream. Is it skiing? Is it roasting s'mores? Is it endless Scrabble and Monopoly marathons? What are you going back to?
A little bit of everything. My parents have a place here, and we get a couple other condos. My sisters come up, all their kids, tons of cousins here. We golfed yesterday. We're going to do some pickleball today, go down to Asheville, downtown, hang out there for a little bit. We're going to go tubing in the snow. There's like a big mountain you can snow down, or a tube down in the snow. We'll hang out, we'll watch a lot of movies, eat a lot of meals together around the table, tell some stories, have a lot of fun, play a lot of games. I'm looking forward to it. It's the week I get to relax more than pretty much any week of the year. So I do enjoy it. We do the same thing every single year right after Christmas.
And you're still going to stream on Christmas, or are you making a video?
Yeah, I like it. I streamed yesterday. I'll probably make a video. I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy coming and hanging out. If something's going on, we talk about it. I still work a little in the morning and at night on my computer. Everything's, online now in the cloud. So I do enjoy doing that. Actually, it gives me peace of mind to continue to work just a little bit. And I enjoy doing the streaming and stuff. So when stuff's happening, we'll talk about it like this. So I appreciate you texting me, and happy I was able to jump on.
Yeah, man. Look, while I was out on leave because we were growing our family, you should know that one of the content creators I listen to the most, of course, yourself. You're a friend first, my friend.
Thank you.
All the best to you and the family. Happy holidays, man, and appreciate your expertise as always.
You as well, man.
All right, Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know. You really want, let's comment section. You guys can thank him for spending some time with us on his vacation, but if you really want to thank Peter, go follow him on his socials and go give him a like and a subscribe on YouTube. Peter, thanks a lot. Back here with you, everybody, here in the Stream Center, and let's go here full screen and show you that the now King Road residents, they haven't proceeded with the second half of the demolition here just yet. They are clearing rubble, debris from their path and picking it all up and putting it in these dump trucks, clearing the way for them to proceed with the rest of the demolition. But the sun has come up, and we're now getting a little bit of a better look as to what currently lies at the property at King Road, where the 4 University of Idaho students were brutally stabbed in the middle of the night, November 13th, 2022. Here we are, about 13 months later. And now the home where that terrible, heinous act occurred is being wiped away. I'm sure that there's feelings of relief in Idaho for some, seeing this, and especially if you live in this area and knowing that this is now a step towards healing. But if you're somebody who has been following this story and praying for justice as the ultimate outcome, you were just hoping that the decision to bulldoze this house and to destroy the murder scene doesn't come back to haunt prosecutors and haunt the pursuit of justice 6+ months from now. Let's say hello to our commenters again. Now we are back with just #KJB if you want your comment to be featured. Really quick, I want to show you the other feed that we have. We're monitoring several feeds here in the Stream Center. I think this is now from the other side of the property. It is. This is a side shot now, so this particular camera crew has moved.
Okay.
And this is the News Nation camera feed. And so they are shooting this from a side angle now. There's that back balcony, the deck there. So many various recreations have occurred, even by folks in, really the online community from a non-law enforcement standpoint, trying to help people that have followed this case truly understand what it was like in the home. What's this in? This is Nancy.
Demolition of the home, but you can see that half of it has already been demolished, and this work got underway half an hour earlier than expected. We were told, it was going to be at the top of the hour, the last hour, and it actually started half an hour before that. And within half an hour, pretty much the front half of the home was gone. So you can see that excavator at work. We've already seen about 5 or 6 dump trucks leaving that is now scooping up all the debris from the front half of the home. We've seen wood, plywood, flooring, insulation, and it's just scooping loads into dump trucks, which are going to be going to a sanitation area outside of Moscow. And I'm told by the university that law enforcement will be guarding the debris. We are starting to see, some Moscow residents coming out, perhaps a couple students who may be around here, but students are on winter break, and the timing of this demolition was purposely done for during the winter break. And next week there's going to be clearing of the property. Now, there are no immediate plans for the property. The university says no decision has been made. They just wanted to have the house demolished, stressing multiple times that it's been just a tragic reminder for students, and there's been just a sense on campus among the student body of wanting to move forward, of always remembering these 4 students and honoring these 4 students, but wanting to move forward as well as a student body. So there you see another load grabbing and going into a dump truck. This is going very, very fast. So yeah, it's no surprise that the university said that this house will be down by the end of the day. Kelly?
That was Nancy Liu, News Nation correspondent, of course, friend of us here at WFLA, as far as our media partners at News Nation. And again, covering this here today. Reading through some of your comments, and I really quickly want to address some friends of the program, because my phone's blowing up with people shooting me texts. Our friend Duty Ron shot me a text. He's watching. He said that he had a Faro Industries expert on his show, and that 3D is admissible in court and been used before. That's very interesting. Again, how prosecutors paint this picture as to what it was like in the home, and to capture the home, and too, so that there is no, as Peter noted, that there is no point of contention, that if the defense says no, this window is this wide, or no, if is the floor this slippery, or is just anything that perhaps might not be able to be digitally recreated, what the point of contention could look like as it plays out in a court of law. How well will a digitally recreated crime scene hold up in a case as high profile as this with a jury versus the actual real thing that is being demolished in front of our eyes? It's not the first time that a jury is exclusively going to be looking at this through, of course, a digitally recreated crime scene. That has happened so many times before, countless times, but with a case that is as high profile as this one, the concept of destroying the murder scene 6 months before a potential trial is slated to begin begs the question from so many, why not just wait one more semester and get us and get through to the summer? The university says that they have waited long enough. It's time to heal, time to move on. We've got everything we need. State's got its case. Got it. But if it comes up in court that they really needed to set the record straight by checking the home to, make a disputed fact undisputed. Can you imagine the uproar in the comment section? Can you imagine? I mean, there's uproar here today. Can you imagine if we are live streaming the trial 6 months from now and a prosecutor, an attorney just says, I disagree with you on that point on the house, and then it comes into question, oh, well, if we could be in the house, we could settle this. Now you can't anymore. Can you imagine the uproar in our comment section? Let's go back to the comments. Again, interactively, we're here to feature you. Welcome into the Stream Center, folks. JB here with you live on WFLA Now. As a reminder, as we are here in the Stream Center, you can always click on the link in the description on this video. It'll take you to WFLA.com where you can read more on this story, the house in the Idaho murders being demolished. Facebook, YouTube, if you want to read it and not hear it from me, you want the facts, just click on the link. It'll take you to the article on WFLA.com. But we are here in the Stream Center to feature your questions, your comments, and want to do so now and get back to hashtag HeyJB. Hello to our great moderator team, like Chelsea talks a lot, saying hashtag HeyJB. Questions, comments, featured on stream. Thanks for joining us here today. Barrett Hunley, hashtag HeyJB. Has there ever been a possible suspect in the course of the investigation other than Bryan Kohberger? The answer to this is definitively no from a public standpoint. If there ever was a potential secondary suspect, a potential accomplice, a potential person of interest outside of Bryan Kohberger, it was never from our vantage point and from all of the press conferences that were held, everything leading up to this point in time where we are today. The only person who is believed to have been responsible for the crime, according to authorities, is Bryan C. Kohberger. How did they reach this conclusion? Well, of course, the white Hyundai Elantra, the vehicle that was sought in the weeks after the murders had taken place, was of course matched to Bryan Kohberger and was found in Pennsylvania after he and his father, Kohberger and his dad, made the cross-country trip back home to where Kohberger is from in Pennsylvania. Then, of course, you factor in the DNA from the sheath of the knife. DNA evidence from the button itself, according to prosecutors, were a match, or a near perfectly identical match to Bryan Kohberger. That is something, DNA evidence, of course, you're going to watch as they demonstrate that process in court and how they're able to reach that conclusion. So there's still, not to mention the digital evidence we're talking about as well against Bryan Kohberger. The activity, the cell phone activity that took him from Pullman, Washington, over the state line into Idaho, into the vicinity of right here, the King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho, and the cell phone pings, and then the turning off of the cell phone that transpired. All of these things, when you add it up all together, the state is likely feeling confident enough in their case to demolish the house. That is again, we've talked about this, but just kind of put this in a neat little package for everybody. That's the silver lining for people who are desperately seeking justice in this case. In watching this here today, is that the state is really at the poker table here and going all in because they are so confident and perhaps pocket aces. They are so confident in their evidence that they have, in their case, that they feel that they can demolish this house, and they are still going to get the conviction that they so desperately seek. Let's go here live, folks. I want to show you. They have now resumed excavating the second half of the home, or at least that's what it looked like there for a second. There you can see they're moving the excavator position. They have now, it appears they have cleared enough of the rubble away that they can now move their equipment into position to resume demolishing the home. I'm going to read your comments right now. We're going to take 60 seconds just to listen in here. In the meantime, I'm going to read through some of the comments, add some of your comments to the queue. And back here live, let's go to some of the comments as they are coming in. And we'll start here with Kim. Again, use hashtag HeyJB to have your comment featured. There was another one in the queue that just got erased. Trying to get to as many of your comments, folks, as possible across Facebook and YouTube Live. Kim says, how did your news crew get to be able to get so close to the demolition where others could not? It's a really good question. You know, that's why I was hoping for the feeds to be up a little bit early so that we could get a better idea as to the lay of the land and how many. Well, I still haven't seen a reversal shot. I'm looking here at our feeds grid, and I haven't seen a shot showing the street. Are people watching? Any demonstrators show up? How much media is there? It's all been focused on the house. And while I appreciate that from a streaming perspective, I was hoping that if the shot was up a little bit early, we would be able to get a vantage point. Is there a perimeter? Are media allowed into that perimeter? These are questions that I think about, and clearly some others do here on stream. Let's go on to the next one. Kelly, hashtag KJB from Facebook Live. Justice is in the courtroom. They could have waited until after trial. Not happy about this. To this comment, I want to point out something. All right. I want to show everybody Instagram for a second. I'm going to show everybody my Instagram. And my poll results from Instagram. I don't know how well I'll be able to show you guys this. But, yeah, it's not very good. I'll just read it as follows. I asked, do you agree with the Idaho house being demolished? 61% said no. 24 to 25% of you, a quarter of you, say, yeah, you agree with the house being demolished. But here in the comment section, most people, it's a lot like Kelly. Not happy about this. I would like to spotlight some comments, people who agree with this. If there are commenters who very much are in agreement. Going back to now the YouTube Live poll, how many votes are we up to? We asked on YouTube Live exclusively, do you agree with the demolition in Idaho? And we are up to 7,231 votes, and 15% of you there say yes. So I'm looking, I want to hear from that 15%. That's part of what I do here, is to be able to share all perspectives. I'm just not seeing people type in comments in support of this. So if there are, I'll try to look for those and spotlight them, because I'm trying to be fair to all perspectives and everything here. Let's clearly a lot of debris falling now. Kelly, we're going to put away your comment and just listen in here for a second. I don't know if anybody caught it there. I think that was before it was demolished there. I think that was the staircase up. Appeared to be the staircase up to the top floor where the murders are believed to have begun. Someone shouted something there, and in my earpiece I couldn't hear it all that great, but I don't know if that was a crew member or... But this structure is clearly about to give, and this is about to come toppling down. There are probably one or two more moves forward before this actually comes down. We'll see if they just try to clear some debris out in the meantime, or if they're just going to topple it all here now. Back to the comment section. Skylock James, #KJB. I know a tragic event happened here, but why wouldn't the college want to seek justice for these kids and leave the home up for possible further help? And there it is. So we had Peter Tragos on earlier. He was struggling to understand the logic with moving forward with this. He was asking similar questions to what you're asking in the comment section. Why ahead of a trial would you just demolish the murder scene? Friend of the program, Jennifer Koffendorfer, former FBI agent, texted me. She couldn't appear on today's stream, but she said, "Sad day for evidence preservation, in my view. I hope the prosecution doesn't end up regretting this. I know the killer won't." That's attributed to Jennifer, who's been on our program before, an expert for News Nation, and tweets quite a bit about cases such as this one, including this one. But yeah, folks, that is the demolition of the home. As we go back here to the other camera angle. Wow, look at that. I mean, it's gone. In the end, this is all about justice. This is all about Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. This is all about their families. This is all about justice in the end. You just hope, I think everyone hopes, collectively, if everyone wants the same thing, the truth to come out and justice to be served, you just want the process, the integrity of that process to be as protected as possible. So that the conclusion that we ultimately reach through our legal system is just and correct. And you just hope, watching this, you just hope that the powers that be are able to prove who did this extremely terrible thing in November of 2022. And we just hope that we all get answers, and that the answers weren't just destroyed in front of us, or at least the chances of us getting the answer that we all want so badly wasn't just destroyed in front of us. All right, we spotlight your comments, your questions as we continue to listen in here, and feel free to throw #KJB in the comment section, and that way it populates here on my screen in the stream center. Let's bring those comments back up. What's really just curious as to how everyone's feeling, just kind of your reactions now that the house has been demolished, and really this is now a cleanup going forward. Really curious how everyone is feeling. So let's go to the most recent comments. Betty Nelson, #KJB, who owns it? The university owns it, and the university decided to proceed with demolition, saying that it was about healing. I'd be really curious to know, like, a sampling of Idaho students. Let's say that you were a freshman last year and you knew that you were going to spend the next few years of your life here in Moscow, Idaho, attending the University of Idaho. How would you feel on a day like today? Did you, if this was going to be your life for the next 4 years as you pursued your education and on your way to the rest of your life, how would you feel today? Is it more relief that you don't have to look at this house all the time and know that the shadow that it's casting looms over campus? Or are you upset with university leadership because you felt like it was an obstacle in the pursuit of justice, or this is now an obstacle in the pursuit of justice? I'd be really curious to know just a sampling of how they feel. And that's what's going to happen. Nancy Liu at News Nation, other reporters, they're going to leave this site and they're going to go do what we in the news industry call MOS, man on the street interviews, just random sampling of people in Moscow. It's just going to be really hard because most are home for the holidays. So it's not going to be as many college students. It's going to be more, Moscow, Idaho residents who live there year round. You would imagine if they're living there in late December, you would imagine that they are residents of the town more than likely, given how cold it is. But that's a Florida newscaster speaking. But what is the MOS going to look like? I'm curious, and I look forward to following up with Nancy's reports later. Some other comments. Haley wants to know, #KJB, did the families go inside of the home at any point? I'm trying to remember. That isn't in my notes, and not to my understanding. I don't have any recollection of them visiting the home. I could be wrong on that. I'm just being honest. That one is not in my notes. Legit casual, hashtag HJB. Do you think the university cares about the victims and their families? Seems like complete disregard because of the demolition. All I can do is read the statement from this gentleman here, President Scott Green, University of Idaho, and he said that the house is a grim reminder of the heinous act that took place there. And then he says, this is the part here, quote, while we appreciate the emotional connection some family members of the victims may have to this house, it is time for its removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue. And look, it's part of my job to be curious, and I am curious as to how many hands were in the bucket when it came to making this decision. And when it comes to university leadership, any major university or non-major university, really virtually any educational establishment in this country, there's going to be politics at the top. So it's Scott Green issuing the statement. It's his name attached to the statement. It's his school. He's the president. But again, me being curious, I'm trying to think here. What were there any politics at play with university leadership that led to this decision? Because it's easy to look at one person, see one name, and just say, yep, this is the guy who made the call. But it rarely are leadership dynamics that simple. So much more can come into play with various pressure. And so, yeah, I don't know. Don't know. Perhaps we'll know in time. But I think that's worth stating, is that we don't know just how many people influenced this decision. Let's go to the second camera angles. We're now blocked by a truck. And that was Nancy's voice in our ear. He might be preparing for a live report talking to the News Nation control room. Here's a guy just kind of here.
Just stay on it.
Just to make sure I don't catch any inadvertent idle chatter from Nancy. There's some guys just drinking coffee watching this. Look, if I was standing out there, a cup of coffee would probably sound pretty good. It's high 30s, I think, right now, mid to high 30s. It's cold. But now, really, the structure's down, and now it's just cleaning up the rubble. Kate says, hashtag KJB, cliche, but I keep thinking you don't know what you don't know in regards to the trial, and jurors feeling like they needed to go to the actual house. Again, it's so we talked about this earlier. It's not this decision was. Someone asked earlier if this was the jury's, part of the jury's purview to whether or not this house should stand or not. No, the jury selection hasn't even begun. But you do have to wonder if a potential juror is ever brought in, and if it ever. They're supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to be as protected from any live streams like this aren't supposed to influence their thinking. They are supposed to be just impartial and focused on what is presented during trial, and not to bring any media reports, any pre-trial bias, anything into their minds. Are supposed to just be a blank slate and determine if the person being charged is guilty of the crimes that they are being charged with. But you have to wonder, it's human nature, if they go into the trial having awareness of the case, is it ever going to cross their mind thinking, it'd really be helpful if we could go in that house, but we can't because it's been leveled in a decision that perhaps that juror doesn't agree with. These are fair things to ask, you guys. These are fair things to wonder and to ask, because I know they're going through your minds. They're going through mine. And this is part of streaming. This is part of talking back and forth, admitting that we are asking the same questions here. Duty Ron, hey, see, he's in the chat. And give Duty Ron's channel a follow, you guys. He helps us out moderating our comment section. It's better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. Is that not the emblem for the opposition in this case? People who are shaking their heads today at the outcome that we have with the house being demolished. This is basically the bumper sticker for it. Better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. But again, I'm looking, guys, I'm looking here for comments that show the other side. People that are looking at this and maybe feel like a weight has been lifted off of their shoulders. I'm talking about the 15% of people in our YouTube live poll, the 25% on my Instagram poll. People who are saying, yeah, demolish it. I'm trying. It's part of my job to be unbiased and to present all perspectives, as many perspectives as I can with the tools that I have available to me. And right now, everything that I have seen is, why did you tear it down? What were they thinking? Why would prosecutors agree to this? Yada, yada, yada. See, like Katie, speaking honestly here, as a juror, I'd be very bothered by this. It would raise more concerns to me as to why. Right. Laura, hashtag AJB, do you think that the defense will use the fact that jurors can't see or go into the house to their advantage? Would have been an awesome question, Laura, if we had Peter on earlier. Thinking about it from a defense perspective. If you are representing Brian Kohberger, who is of course, through our Constitution, he has the right to defend himself by any and all means necessary to prove his case. Or not to even prove his case, to poke holes in the case of the prosecution, to prove and clear his name. But will this factor into their strategy? I am not an attorney, but so my perspective on it means very little. But I'll answer in this way. And Logan, I got you coming up here next, Logan. I'll answer it this way. If you're Brian Kohberger, you're going to use any and all strategies available to you in attempt at exoneration. Period. You're going to collect all your various chess pieces. You're going to formulate your strategy with what you have, and use that as part of your defense, as anyone would and should do. Logan, thank you, Logan. Hashtag KJB. Yes, I'm part of that 15%. I think it is good the house is being taken away from the college grounds. It creates bad memories. Hard to rent out knowing there was a murder at the residence. Well, right. Yeah. I mean, people on this street, I'm sure that they are in I think a little bit of a different boat than those who are just elsewhere on the outskirts of the Idaho campus or elsewhere in Moscow, Idaho. People on the street, you would imagine that there's relief for them. Outside of just a few days around the holidays when you have to deal with the loud rumblings and grumblings of a demolition crew, but yes, thank you, because we as far as the 15%, Logan here is representing that, as is Mob Hollywood on Facebook Live. Hashtag AJB, the jury won't need the house. DNA is unbeatable. It's not unbeatable. DNA is not unbeatable. Let's please just make sure that that is stated. Because the process in which DNA is collected, the process in which DNA is used to establish a profile, and then the process in which that profile is used to match to another human being, all of that is part of a suspect's defense, no doubt, when DNA is on the table. So the methodology, the science behind DNA being used in this case, the defense really has no choice but to try to discredit that and poke holes in that DNA evidence as much as they can. So if they find a flaw, if they find whether it was how it was collected, how the DNA was preserved, the amount of DNA, the DNA match itself, the technology that was used, the lab and the team associated with actually doing the DNA testing / matching, all of that is on the table for the defense to try and poke holes in it to get DNA tossed out. So DNA is not unbeatable. It's pretty darn good to have and can be the baseline foundation for a district attorney's office to prove their case, no doubt. But there have been cases where DNA is tossed out because of whether it be a part of the process going wrong. And so the integrity of the DNA process is so important, and we will gain a better understanding as to the DNA process should this trial happen in 6 months from now. Hee. Yeah, that's a YouTube name for sure. #KJB. As a parent, I would feel much better if they would have waited until after the trial. I would have been part of the 15% if this were being done after Brian Kohberger was found guilty. Here's the thing. If you're university leadership and you're so desperate to move on from this and demolish this house and move on, start the process of healing and moving on, you don't have any guarantee that the trial is going to happen. I think that we're all, just because the prosecution has requested a trial start date of summer 2024, there's all of this now anticipation for that trial happening in the summer of 2024, but that hasn't been set in stone yet. That is the target, not definitively when this trial is going to begin. We don't have a date. We have a window, but possible window. So if, let's say that there is some complicated pretrial motions that arise, and then it becomes clear that there's no way that everything they have to do to get prepared for trial this summer, there's no way to get everything done in time, and they're forced to delay. And then all parties say, well, we do not want to do it. Let's change camera angles here. We don't want to do it while class is in session. We are looking for a 6 to 8 week window to get this all wrapped up, and we want to do it when class is not in session. The only real time of the year when you don't have as many students present on campus and you don't have a fully active campus for a 6 to 8 week window is during the summer. So if they were to delay it from summer 2024, it would likely, you would imagine, in all likelihood, and Peter talked about this, in all likelihood, they would push it back a solid year, maybe to May 2025, if they were talking about a delay beyond the summer. So that's another full year of this house standing. I'd be curious to know if they had said our trial date is June 1, 2025, how much that would influence our poll results here today. Because then it's not standing for another 6 months, it's standing for another 18 months. The intention and the goal of starting this summer, coming out within weeks of this, really the same month of the demolition itself, is there's undoubtedly an intersection there that where one impacts the other and vice versa. There's no doubt. So, very, very interesting. So this is interesting. And I don't think I've seen one comment articulate this as well as Mary has. But this is simple for, and I think a lot based on my reading hundreds, if not thousands, of your comments by now. I think that a lot of people agree with Mary because there were much longer comments that were getting to this, but this is really the heart of it for so many. Mary says, #KJB, the healing starts after, not during the case. The case is still very much a reality for the University of Idaho. Removing the structure doesn't change the fact that there is a looming court case potentially for this summer. There is going to be pretrial motions. More national, international news outlets are going to be descending on Moscow, Idaho to cover anytime Bryan Kohberger sets foot in a courtroom, pretrial motion, trial itself, whatever it may be, anything. National, international media are booking their flights from Moscow, Idaho, and it becomes, again, a massive news story. The university can't, there's nothing that they can do to change that. The one thing that maybe tweaks it is a change of venue, a change of jurisdiction, which has been discussed, but it's unclear as to how realistic it would be to move things out of Latah County. For the idea would be that a change of jurisdiction, a change of district would preserve the integrity of locating and securing a unbiased jury, but man, good luck. Jury selection, because of how now news and information travels in the digital era, good luck finding a jury that hasn't heard of this case. It's going to be hard. Now, look, not everyone's aware. I'll tell you what, I talked to somebody over the Christmas holiday who had no idea this case existed. Now, I'm in Florida. A little different. But there are people. It's just going to be hard to find those people. Find a competent jury that will be able to leave any preconceived bias at the door as they walk into the courtroom. Oh, of course. Rooster wants to know, is there any chance there will never be a trial? Is that possible? Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always possible. Change of a change of plea. Bryan Kohberger says, you know what? Yeah, I'm guilty. I maybe it's the concept of avoiding the death penalty is put forth to spare the families of the victims a long and arduous trial process. The idea of taking the death penalty. I'm just discussing like scenarios in other comparable cases where it doesn't go to trial. A change of plea would be an effort to make a deal. Not saying that that's even remotely possible in this case. Not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying in that scenario, yes, that would be a way of avoiding trial. A major discovery in the case that points authorities in a different direction and clears the name of the suspect who's been charged. There's always different possibilities. In this case, it seems pretty clear that Bryan Kohberger is going to trial. The only question is when. But, Roosta, yes, there's always a possibility where a trial doesn't happen for a variety of different reasons. FGS, #KJB. In my opinion, this speaks volumes. And the defense now has another avenue to draw out the trial about the absence of the house. Okay. To your comment there, Yogi Bear. Is there any way, I didn't think about that. Is there any way that the house's The demolition of the house could be used as a pawn to delay trial. I haven't thought about that. And there's some dots to connect there that I'll have to think about that more. But could Brian Koberger's team say, all right, the house being demolished has changed our strategy for presenting our defense. 6 months is no longer an acceptable time frame. We would like a postponement of trial. I haven't thought about that. But this is, again, why I like doing what I do, because I hadn't thought of that. Brian, #HeyJB, how do you keep your emotions in check when covering such sensitive stories? I think the answer to this is I don't. I think people who have watched me for a long enough time know that there are times when you stream for hours, commercial free, no breaks, there are times when emotions will get the better of you. And that's just the nature of live streaming versus being on TV. I used to be on TV all the time. I used to be on TV 5 days a week. And that's different because you're on TV for a finite amount of time. You have to focus and concentrate and deliver your report. Live streaming is different. We're kind of all in the same room here together. And there's no hiding behind a commercial break. There's no exhale after delivering your report and then going to your photographer and being like, man, and then sharing your real thoughts. Brian, without spending too much time on this, sometimes my emotions will, I try to always make it about our audience and your opinions, but emotions are part of live streaming. We try our very best here to just keep the train on the track, so to speak. Oh, that's interesting. Sandra, #HeyJB, do you think he's watching this? Huh. I'm trying to remember the conditions of his prison time, or his jail time, excuse me. And whether or not what kind of access to the outside world he has. Look, I've been messaged that we have the most viewed live stream on social media. That if you were looking for a live feed of the house being demolished and you were looking for it on Google, or you were just punching it in and trying to find it quickly, that we were the one that you found. We have live streams across 4 or 5 different platforms right now, including YouTube and Facebook. And I don't know. Could various attorneys be watching? It happened all the time during Petito. I would be on live stream and my phone would be blowing up with people connected to the case saying, asking questions, or that would happen all the time. So it's possible. Absolutely possible. Oh, man. So JB Gunner live. So there's another JB that goes live. Hello there, hat tip. I personally think that the house would have been easier to rent out or sell. A lot of true crimers with money would have bought into it. Agree or no? No. Can you think about this, other JB? If the university owns it, if they were to rent it out, and then all of a sudden it is going to the highest bidder on like a Airbnb type of thing, and then you've got YouTubers that are making videos from inside of the home, and then there's profit being made off of the tragic murders of 4 young students. Think about, you think that this is a PR bonanza for the university? Imagine how the university would be attacked. Imagine the firestorm of controversy that would exist with the university renting it out. No, I don't think that's I'm trying to think of a scenario here where no, but I can't. I can't. Betty, hashtag KJB. I don't know if this is sarcastic or not, but I almost read it with a bit of a sarcastic tone. Think it's time to remove the crime tape. There is tape up still. It's, well, that there. It's not up. It's laid across the property there, but there it is. Here, change views. Trying to show you guys as many angles as possible. "65 Roses Mama. Hashtag HJB. I just sent a pic of your live stream to my father. Just retired as provost, second to the prez from a university. Didn't ask any questions. He said the house should stay up until after trial." Yeah, people are talking about this. They're texting their friends. A lot of people are home for the holidays. A little off time from work. To those of you not off, hat tip to you for working through the holidays, because so many people in so many industries that have to work during the holidays. As someone who works in the news industry and has worked many holidays in the past, again, hat tip to you. A lot of people sitting at home this morning and perhaps sipping a glass of hot cocoa, and maybe you found this live stream, and you're either in that 15%, you have that sense of relief, and you're thinking, my goodness, so grateful that community can start the long process of healing, and if it starts with taking down a structure that has already been examined and scanned extensively, so be it. But then you have people that are sipping their hot cocoa and thinking to themselves, how could they do this? So adverse reactions. In fact, when I asked the poll when we began the live stream, we're almost up to 10,000 votes. I included an option for not sure on Instagram and on YouTube. And on YouTube here, 11% said not sure. So there's 10% undecided voters, so to speak. Undecided because they just don't know what to make of this. They don't know if to feel good or bad about it, if they agree or disagree with it. So it has to be stated that some people are probably having a mix of emotions here as well. Grateful for people that live in the vicinity of this home who maybe have seen their property values go down or have experienced a lot of stress living in this area, knowing what took place there, and feeling relief and happiness. And for those people that perhaps aren't thought of very often, but I think a lot of people, though, are just thinking 6 more months would have gotten us to maybe the initial trial window. Judgmental, hashtag HJB. I think this is the first time that people on both sides of the case, guilty/not guilty, actually agree on something, that the house should not have been demolished. This is a confusing comment to me, Mr. Mental. Reason being is because I don't know, are you referencing the attorneys? Are you referencing the public? Because I don't see too many people who look at Brian Kohberger and see an innocent man. And that's just look, that's the prism of social media in today's day and age, when he's walking around in an orange jumpsuit, he's got handcuffs around his wrists, and he is perceived to us as the public at large through just that visual, knowing things about the DNA, knowing things about the vehicle, the digital evidence with the cell phones. You see it is natural for people to just see someone who is guilty. So it's hard to find on social media people who say, oh no, I think Brian Kohberger is innocent. I don't see much of that. But that's just because of how it works in today's day and age. When people see something, that's what they believe, or they hear the reports, they hear the evidence, that's what they believe. But Brian Kohberger is entitled to his day in court, and he has same right as every one of us citizens of this country to present a defense and clear their name. But I don't I don't know if the Koberger side of things is watching this, and I'm not so I could be wrong, but are they watching this and being like, no, don't demolish the house. It was part of our defense. I really don't know. There wasn't any objection from the defense, any noteworthy objection from the defense as far as the demolition of the house. You're destroying the scene of it's if anything, as multiple legal pundits have said, if anything, this is just making it harder for the state to prove their case. So I don't know, kind of a curious comment there. Oh, wow. Carmen, this is an interesting question. Are they going to put up a memorial for the 4 students in place of the home? Well, I haven't heard yet of their intentions for the property. Moderators, if anyone has seen any report about, even today, the intention for this property, let me know. We're going to go another half an hour. We're going to noon Eastern. At this point, the demolition is just now picking up pieces of rubble. So we're going to go another half an hour, and then that'll wrap it up. So Stacy says, can you do a poll on guilty versus innocent? No, I can't. I can't, as an interactive streamer, I can't do that. And Stacy, I'll explain to you why. All we have is one side. You can say whatever you want about Bryan Kohberger, and believe me, you already are, in the live comment section and elsewhere on social media. But say whatever you want, but he has a right to his day in court. His right to say, you've got it all wrong. I am an innocent person. He has his right to defend himself. And we haven't heard his case for why he is innocent, because we haven't heard a formal presentation of the facts and of the evidence of the case in a formal setting such as a trial. So to put a poll would be really irresponsible and reckless on my part. It just, can't do it. Believe me, we have plans for covering this trial that are going to be very unique. And I can't say too much because this is something we've been working on for some time, but we have some major court cases coming up in 2024, potentially. On the schedule for May, with a definitive start date, is the Petito trial, the Petito versus Laundrie trial. That is one I've been covering pretty much every day for the last couple of years, or the lead up to it, really. And then potentially right behind that, we might have this one. So it's going to be a significant year for court cases. We're coming off of a year that saw, Alex Murdaugh. People are still, I know it sounds crazy, people still talk about Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Court cases and streaming court cases, really in the last 18 months, really last several years, has, it's become a destination for people to converse about our legal system, about some of the high-profile cases that really exist in our country, and really get any more profile than Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Alex Murdaugh was a massive case. The Parkland school shooter, massive case. Darrell Brooks, as Peter noted earlier, these are massive cases that have happened, and there's more massive cases to occur in the future, including with the 45th president of the United States, who's expected to be back in court during an election year. Now, while we likely won't get too much camera access to those proceedings, it's just overall going to be a very significant year, another significant year when it comes to putting our legal system under the magnifying glass through the lens of live streaming. And we are trying to, here in the Stream Center, trying to close the gap between these cases and you at home. Without giving away too much, we're trying to find a way to make you feel as much as part of the making it feel like that you are able to interact with us in ways that we gain a better understanding for how people are following these trials. And so, next year there's going to be a lot, and we're here doing a lot of things behind the scene. Again, can't talk too much about it, but we're here doing a lot of things behind the scene to make your viewership just feel different than just watching it on TV. I was doing what I do, monologuing for way too long. And Spirit Wolf says, whose drone was that? Was there a drone that flew by? Can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down emoji if people saw a drone? Here, let's go full screen. Let's bring... So, sorry, I had some audio feedback. So, people are saying, yeah, they saw a drone. I must have missed it. I'll keep an eye peeled for it. Would you say that the testimony of the surviving roommates is less important than the house being demolished? I don't know. It's so hard to say without really... It's hard to say. There's so much that we don't know, Wheels. We just don't... There's a lot that remains unclear. So there is so much more that we don't know about this case. Michelle, one of our great moderators, asked about Brian Enton. Guys, I'm not going to do a live stream and not reach out to Brian. I reached out to Brian, and he's enjoying vacay. He was invited to participate today, and I think he is on... Look, some people on vacation, hard to get a hold of for good reason, because you're on vacation. Again, I'd love to see a reversal. Just a shot down the street. Just to see who's watching. If there's another perimeter that's been set up. I haven't really seen all that. It's just weird. Look, that's a good thing. We're focused on the house. That's what matters. But with 20 minutes to go in our live stream, this is an opportunity to I've kept it focused to Idaho, but because I haven't streamed as much recently, for good reason, any and all questions are on the table. You can use hashtag HeyJB, and I'll is it about another case? I have been following Savannah Soto, that case. So I'm just letting you know, all questions are on the table. Any other cases, any other things about our, streaming, whatever. It's all on the table. I'll answer anything. My favorite color. Let's see. Steve, that's the big question, Steve. How is this going to affect the case? The prosecutors appear to be quite confident it's not going to impact the case. There's been this notion put out there that perhaps, I don't know. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I just think that some are of the opinion this decision could come back to haunt the prosecution. Others are saying that they have so much tangible evidence at their disposal that this isn't going to impact the case. We really won't know until trial. I'll tell you what. We're going to cover this trial. There's no doubt. We will take maybe when the jury's deliberating, it'll be a great opportunity. Let's say, go down the rabbit hole with me for a moment. Let's say the trial happens this summer. 6-week window. Let's say it takes a few weeks to get through trial. And then the jury goes back to deliberate. We need things to talk about during that chapter, right? When the jury is back there to deliberate and reach their verdict. One of the things we can talk about, we can make a poll out of it. Whether or not this decision to destroy the murder scene and to demolish the house, whether or not that was, does the public who watched the trial, do you believe that it was still a poor decision? With the right decision, it would probably be the more appropriate way of asking it. It's Marissa, unrelated to this case, but will you be covering anything with Gypsy? We reached out to Gypsy. Stay tuned. She got out this morning, I believe. I think right as we were launching our live stream. Lily Wayne. Almost read that as Lil Wayne. Lily Wayne. Hashtag KJB. How did the victims' families feel about the demolition? Look, if there hasn't been a statement put out already, I'm sure that there's a statement that's going to be coming out soon. Hard for me to parse through everything on the internet coming in when I'm on live stream, but fast chat. Will there be a movie made about the Idaho case? Studios have to weigh. There's so much that comes into play when it comes to, look, is a studio going to want to tell the story knowing that they are going to be making a profit off of someone else's heartbreak and the heartbreak of 4 families? Documentaries are all about uncovering the truth and interviews with those closest. But when you do a movie and docs are very different to me in today's era because people identify with documentaries in a different way that they identify with movies. A movie is an interpretation of what actually transpired from a certain point of view. One day, who knows? Who knows what will happen 20, 30 years from now? What movies that they will make about, and also too, movies that could draw inspiration from a case without using names and a direct connection with the case itself. There's a lot of options there, but Little Patty says Duty Rollins also live with Ed. Cool. Might listen to that on the way home. Love my fellow content creators here on YouTube, man. Yeah, I was out for some time for, personal reasons. Birth of our son. And my wife and I super thrilled to welcome a baby boy into the world. And so, yeah, a lot of time at home rocking the baby. And it was really awesome to just kind of be a viewer for a few weeks, you know, and just I always try to put myself in the perspective of and try to understand the perspective of people that watch our content. So, yeah. And those live streams that you guys were watching on other channels, maybe I was in the comment section. Maybe I have an alias. No, I don't have an alias. But I do watch live streams and consume content. And while I was very much at home focused on my family, I was also keeping tabs on what was going on out there in the world when I could. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I usually try not to bring up my personal life, because the moment I bring up my personal life, I just get a lot of, because there's so many nice people in the world, and then they just flood the comment section with nice things, and then I can't find any comments to keep things on track. So this is why, one of the big reasons why I desperately try to avoid talking about my personal life, is because it makes it exponentially more difficult for me to stay on track. All right. In a few minutes, I'll talk about, if people are really want to hear about my life the last couple months, I'd be happy to share towards the end of the stream, but we got another 15 minutes to go. Yeah, I saw this. First one's the school's building a memorial. Be a reminder that the murder occurred. I can't see the neighbors agreeing to a memorial. Yeah. A memorial is... I want to see somebody who would look into a camera and say, no, this memorial is a terrible idea. I can't see it. There should be more than one. There should be multiple with their respective majors and their respective career paths. Name a lecture hall after a student, whether it's Xana or Ethan or Maddie or Kaylee. Do things to honor them. Don't just sweep them away. We were talking earlier about emotions. How's that for emotions? Yeah, maybe instead of one memorial, find ways to remember these students and honor their families. Do right by them, not wrong by them. Whether or not this is just putting away the house for a second. What should be done is to find ways to give people a reason to smile about the 4 incredible lives that were lost that day. And while them being gone is tragic, there are ways that you can ease the suffering of family members, ease the suffering of the community by doing things to honor them. And this is not exclusive to just this case. We've seen it with school shootings. Ways that people try to memorialize and honor the people who have lost their lives during tragedies. This case there's a prime opportunity here for the same to occur. Try to do things. A scholarship. 4 scholarships. Do good. If we just take out the broom and sweep this all away, it's even if you get justice, even if Brian Kohberger is the person that is guilty of these crimes, and even if he's proven to be guilty, even if he gets the death penalty and is eventually that's how he ultimately reaches his fate, there's still tremendous good that can be done to honor Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. And you would hope somebody or multiple people with hearts can find it upon themselves to have the idea to do something or several things, maybe not just one act, but several acts to honor these 4 that had their college degrees and their lives and their futures robbed from them, taken from them. Brooke says, hashtag KJB, I'll never forget Kaylee's father saying, forget him, remember them. Yeah. Look, you guys, when this trial happens, there's going to be a lot of talk. It is part of the jobs that we do to really talk about Brian Kohberger a lot. And that's just part of the process. But that doesn't mean, at least I can speak for myself as a newscaster, does not mean necessarily that we are forgetting about Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. And we will try our very, very hardest to keep that in mind as we, proceed with trial coverage in the months or year or so ahead. War Flare, hashtag AJB, now that the house is demolished, we have a better sense of the setting of the house regarding being overlooked and exposed. Yeah, it's kind of, there's still dust in the air. And, this is actually, I'm a big live stream advocate. Obviously, I'm a live streamer. But this is also a really incredible opportunity for still photography to capture this scene as the dust settles. Still photography still has a very concrete place in journalism as far as I'm concerned. And sometimes a still image can speak more to a person than just watching a video. So I'll be very curious to look at some of, the Associated Press doesn't get enough credit. They have some amazing photographers that are quite literally documenting history with some of their still photography. And it'll be very interesting to see how they capture this moment in time, quite literally when the dust settles. All right, last call for questions, comments. Yeah, there are different ways and different methods that still photographers use. Team Brittany, and they get so, still photography gets so lost today because so many people are so focused. We're like a video obsessed society now, a live video obsessed society, but we're the TikTok generation, if you will, the Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts generation, where people are just quickly consuming video. But sometimes a still image can be extremely powerful and capture things, or capture a moment better than live video really can. They're trying to protect against that, Autumn. Yeah, you hope that no one can make a dime off of this. And so, but I'll tell you what, there's nothing that's going to stop content creators from going there and documenting this when the perimeter is taken down. Now, it's private property, you can't step on it. But people, if you can fly with drones over it, you can zoom in with those drones. People will, in the aftermath of this, try to, create content and try to find things on the property. It's going to happen. Can't stop it. Yeah, see, you're at the end of a live stream when I get some of the crazy nonsense questions and comments, a few of which are that I am now seeing that have absolutely nothing to do with this story or have anything to do with anything rooted in reality whatsoever. Yeah, Zero says, I'm sure books will be written about the Idaho 4. I'm sure that books are, I'm sure that there are drafts already written. I'm sure that, but you know, it's not a story that is complete yet. So, you know, we understand, you know, or I'm following the Becky Hill stuff. You know, there's always going to be people that are going to be looking to share their story and be part of the conversation, be part of the narrative, and be, you know, and potentially profit off of major stories. But this one is just interesting because we're not there yet. It's not over yet. But you would imagine that in, you know, soon after we reach this story's conclusion, yes, there will be books, documentaries. There's already docs, I think, out. Yeah, as a last call for questions, comments, Stacy, yeah, cool. Thanks for finding us. Appreciate you. The Stream Center is very much a forward-thinking concept to doing news, just a little bit different. And you will see a little bit more. We have really big plans for 2024, things that I'm extremely excited about. I have not been on camera. The last time that I was on camera consistently was during OceanGate. And after OceanGate, I needed to work on some other projects for my company, and I wasn't on camera as much. And then I went on paternity leave, and so then I was off camera quite a bit. But we have really exciting things in the works for 2024. Can't wait to share what we are working on. And it's a culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of you guys watching. So wherever you're watching from us here in the Stream Center, or us, me in the Stream Center, everyone's off. I'm like the only guy working here today, it feels like. But from me here in the Stream Center, huge thank you, because if you're watching, you're voting in the poll, you're using #KJB, you are basically telling us that you want to be part of the news process and part of our goal for an interactive experience where we can make a one-lane street as far as the flow of information, a two-way street, and bring you guys into our coverage. So we really appreciate everyone who's been voting and commenting, and yeah, you guys are part of why we are able to do what we do. So thank you. Oh, Lil Patty, it's okay. Duty Ron's not live. It's cool. He'll be live soon. And then people go find his page because he's a great guy. Merry Christmas, Ron. Patty, others. Yeah. Man, OceanGate. We had 161,000 people in the chat. Yeah, that was crazy. I still think about that coverage quite a bit. Man, I'll tell you, again, rocking back and forth with the baby, your mind will go places and you'll look back on the year that was and thought a lot about OceanGate. And how, you know, that story, we tried to cover it with as much sensitivity as possible. Mark Martin was a superstar. We tried to really do it differently than what you would see on mainstream media. We tried to just be as raw as we could and just try to be really fact-based and try to just kind of document history as it was unfolding. But I'm always thinking about ways we could do it better also, as far as live streaming. That's very kind of you, W. Chan. But I don't have a blog, but more stuff is ahead. And you can follow me at WFLAJB on socials, and I'll be sharing more about some of the exciting things that are coming our way next year. For folks that have found this live stream looking for coverage of what is happening, the rubble is being picked up as we speak. They're going to be, and really the event of the demolition itself is coming to its end, really. It's now just pickup and removal and really reaction, how people are reacting to this now being a pile of rubble and no longer the home at King Road where Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee once lived and made happy memories before reaching their untimely death at the hands of somebody very sinister. Me too, Duke UNC. I remember you from I think you were on our stream with us, right? Yeah. Mark's the man. Shout out Mark Martin. If you don't know Mark Martin, you guys are you're missing out. Yeah, Yo Baby Blondie, I see your comment. That's such a crazy hypothetical that it's hard to say. Space Nerd, thank you. That's very, very kind. Katie as well, thank you. Guys, really some very, very kind. Ooh, Nancy's up, but you know what? I don't want to actually, no, she's just doing mic checks. We're going to have to wrap up our live stream here momentarily. Literally last call, like 90 or so seconds away from ending our live stream here. Anybody else want to ask some final questions? Now's time to punch it in. And let's close the poll. 11,000 votes. We asked, do you agree with the demolition in Idaho? And the final poll results were 73% saying no, 15% held firm as yes, and 11% not sure. An unscientific, social media-based poll, but at least it gives us at least a general idea as to how our comment section is feeling about demolition today. Oh, I promised to talk about the kid. Yeah. Cute, man. I'll just really quickly say that I love dad life. Been great being a parent. I'm very fortunate to have a brilliant and nurturing and incredible wife that is that if I had my own show and I could just talk about my life, I would just talk about how amazing my wife is. Yeah, little JJ is good at home, and he's been amazing. He is 10 weeks old, and we can't wait to watch him grow up. We're thinking about all the fun things, and all I am like solely focused right now on getting giggles. I go home and I'll cook, I'll do chores around the house, but really my number one thing is I'm trying to get giggles. That's a little bit about me, and I promised I would share a little bit about my leave when I was gone for a couple months, and really appreciate you guys and all the love that I've received. I've received so many loving messages from people on Instagram and on Facebook that really does mean the world to me. So thank you. I mean, strangers, people that I may well never meet, but people saying the kindest things, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. And I'm not going to spotlight comments, but I see Mary and Dina and Ralph and others. I see the very kind comments. Thank you. There's a lot of congratulatory comments. I really, really do genuinely mean it when I say I appreciate it. Okay, so let's wrap up the live stream by just telling you this. More to come on this story. No doubt. Is this the year we get a trial? 2024, is it the year that we get a trial in Idaho? Stay tuned. We're going to be doing more interactive coverage. We're going to be doing more live streams. We're going to be doing more videos. We're going to be doing all of it here from the Stream Center, which is, again, our think tank for interactive journalism. This room is unique in the news industry in that it is solely built for one purpose: to do news different. Breaking news, interactive journalism, focusing on the stories that you really want to get granular with. That's the purpose. And normally I would have Walt Buteau or Josh Benson or various other guests sit down with me in here, and we would be talking and featuring comments and spotlighting you guys in unique ways and running polls. But it's the holidays, so I'm in here by myself. And so with that, I just will say this. If you believe in this version of doing the news, if you believe in interactivity being part of the future of news, where your voice at home matters, where it's a two-way lane of, news forever has been a one-way street. It's news casters and journalists presenting information and you at home just receiving it. But we now have the ability to feature you and bring you in. And during Petito coverage, bring in your face. Bring you guys quite literally into our coverage in unique and very forward-thinking ways. And that's a huge part of our plans for 2024. We're really excited to share what we've been working on because we're taking this to the next level. And if you believe in it, stay tuned. You can click on like, subscribe on YouTube. I never really say that because I don't want to be like it's not really about, of course, we always want to be able to reach as many people as possible. But look, whether I say it or not, you're going to like and subscribe. You're going to follow me and what we do. If you like what we are doing, whether I tell you to or not, we want it to be organic. So we have really exciting plans for next year. And if you believe in this style of doing the news, which is very different than what you would see when you turn on your cable box and find a cable news channel, it's very different than traditional media. If you think that we're on to something here, it would mean a whole lot to support us in various ways when it comes to the follows, the likes, the subscribes, whatever your preferential sort of call to action is. We just want to bring you guys into our coverage in new and exciting ways and let you know that your voice matters. Your comments matter. Your questions matter. And sometimes you guys have the best questions. So we really do appreciate you watching and interacting with us, and big things ahead in 2024. This has been interactive streaming coverage in WFLA Now. Thank you so much for joining us here from the Stream Center. It's really important to note that if you want updates on this story, they're coming your way on WFLA.com. We'll continuously update our articles there so that you guys can read the latest as it comes in, and more live streams ahead in the future. So if I don't talk to you guys, wherever you're watching from, happy holidays. I mean it. Happy holidays to you, your families. Be good to one another. Be kind to one another. Look out for one another. And wherever you're watching, United States or beyond, a big shout out to you and your families. And I hope you guys have a very happy and safe holiday. And if I don't see you, we will see you in 2024. Folks, I'll be elsewhere on social media. You can follow me at WFLAJB. Thanks so much. Happy New Year.